Okay, good morning, Your Excellencies, esteemed audience, distinguished panel, a very warm Abu Dhabi Ahlan wa Sahlan special welcome to you all. If I went through all the bios of this amazing panel that we have here, we would be here all morning. The next lot of panel sessions would all be destroyed and taken out. So I'm sure you didn't come here to listen to me telling you about this wonderful panel. I'm sure you came here to listen to them speak to you on this important topic, which is accelerating progress to a low-carbon future. If you were to look at the BP Outlook 2035, and the next edition of that's about to come out on the 10th of February from our chief economist, I'll give you a little bit of insight on what's going to be in there. You heard it first here. It's going to tell you that the coal and gas change is a little bit more positive. That's the good news. So a little bit less on the coal and a little bit more gas utilization with regards to a lower carbon economy. The bad news is, though, that we're still going to cross that 450 IEA scenario, plus 2 degrees, before 2035. So, what are we going to do about it? We've got this great panel here, and thank you, Kerry's just joined us now, so we're all complete. What are we going to do about it? What are we doing, both in the private and the government sector, to increase the acceleration progress to a lower carbon future? And to start us off, I'm going to ask His Excellency, Dr. Mata, here on my left, from the Ministry of Energy, to discuss the proactive measures that are being implemented within the UAE. Your Excellency. I think it's on.
It's on. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Nick, for the introduction. And I and my colleagues, we will try to do our best not to disappoint the audience. The case of the energy transformation in the UAE is unique in the region. The UAE, since the creation, the vision of its leader is to protect the environment and to encourage sustainability in all different aspects. And this is particularly to the energy sector. Visionary leadership lead the transformation of the energy sector. Sheikh Zayed, the foundation of the UAE, has called for the energy to protect the environment, not only to extract the resource, but also to protect the environmental by different aspects. Two things has happened since then. In 1995, ADNOC, as a leading national oil company within the UAE, adopt a zero flaming policy when it's technically possible. 2014, Master and ADNOC signed a Riyadh project where CCS has been adopted, technically has been adopted. CO2 has been extracted from steel factory and then been injected in Aromatha oil field. That project will be account for reducing 800,000 tons from CO2 emission. Protecting the environment and in rehabilitation of marine environment was also a major task for ADNOC. ADNOC invested around 600 million dirham to protect and rehabilitate the environment. And that is the result in creation a lot of area where fish was disappeared, and now we have a lot of fish has been immigrated to an area around the oil field. So visionary leadership has been the core success of the UAE energy sector. It is a 360-degree transformation from policy to energy generation and energy consumption. For the sake of time, I will limit myself to energy policy. The example that is being taken from the UAE last August, when the government has announced deregulation of the fuel price and linked it to international price, is a key factor in our energy transformation to the low cost of of CO2 emission. UAE is the first OPEC country to remove subsidy from fuel price. Dynamic system linked to the international formula. We have seen the price of gasoline and diesel after it's been deregulated. 1 month later on, especially starting from September, the prices start to become down. And we noticed last December, the people, they are enjoying the price, which is less than what they used to pay before the deregulation in July. So the idea itself, because the international price, people start to enjoy the benefit, and the price of the gasoline within the UAE has become less than what it used to be paid before. This is to prove that the resilience and the maturity of the UAE economy and the leadership the UAE has shown within the region encourage other country in the neighboring country to follow the UAE and to reduce or to remove subsidy from the fuel price. All this is to highlight the ambitions of the UAE to become a key player in energy transformation across the region. Thank you, Nick.
Excellent. And as you say, we just have a look at the local media and we see what's going on in the region. UAE setting a great example there. And it's good to see the neighboring countries also doing their bit with regards to reducing subsidies. So that's the governmental. Now we'd like to hear what's going on in the private sector. What leadership roles does the hydrocarbon sector have, in particular in developing a lower carbon economy? And if I could ask Ahmed from BP, followed by Neil from Dow, to expand on that, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Sabah al-Khair. Esteemed guests, Your Excellency, I think starting with leadership, I would say that this event here, and I've been attending this off and on for quite a few years, this event continues to grow, and it demonstrates the leadership that Abu Dhabi has shown in creating and establishing a platform for dialogue that moves us to the affordable transition that we need for the future. Let me leave you with a few numbers here today. So 450 and 2, you heard Nick talk about that. Remember 50%. Remember something called 1 for 11, and then remember 0. And here's the story. The 450 scenario, which is an International Energy Agency scenario, which would limit the temperature rise to 2 degrees from the pre-industrial age, still has 50% oil and gas being produced in 2030, reducing to 44% by 2040. And what does that mean? That means that there has to be a shift in the energy mix from now into the future, and the transition fuel in the energy mix is gas. Remember the 1 for 11? If you were to take 1% of the power that is today generated with coal and you switch that to gas, that is the same as adding 11% growth in renewables. So gas has about half the emissions of coal when used for power generation. So the IEA predicts a significant increase in growth in gas in order to deliver the 450 and 2 scenario. And finally, 0. 0 is the, and Your Excellency mentioned this, the World Bank and several companies have signed up to an initiative that says 0 routine flaring by 2030. My company, along with others, has signed up to this, and our leadership is actually investing in the technologies and the practices that are required to get us there. And we have some great examples. We are developing a project in Oman that is being designed to be a low emissions project. And that project is using technology which will actually reduce the methane emissions, and it will also have very, very efficient technologies that eliminate flaring with time. I think I'll stop there and move on.
Neil, if you could add.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opening remarks from His Excellency and for the great work that's going on here. I work for Dow Chemical Company, which is a science and technology company. And when you hear the challenges of going to low-carbon economy, as has been laid out, that's only going to be met through science and engineering. And I believe that there's a very key role for the hydrocarbon industry as it stands today in making that transition, as you've just highlighted. When we think about this challenge of going to the low-carbon economy, we actually have a strategy we call COAT, Conserve, Optimize, Accelerate, and Transition. Conserve, Optimize, Accelerate, and Transition. And I know there's a strong need to move forward in the renewable and alternative energy areas, and we support that both with our own innovation as well as our own product lines, as well as public policy. But the most cost-effective tools to getting to a low-carbon economy still remain energy efficiency. The energy that you save is the most, and you never have to produce to make, is the most cost-effective. So I think it's very important, we as a hydrocarbons and energy industry, that we take note of that, we lead the way, we earn the right to continue producing and using the molecules that we currently enjoy, and I think we have to be very focused there. On renewable energy, I think it's very important for us as an industry not only to participate in research, but also helping the scaling up of large systems of renewable energy. And to that end, Dow has some pretty significant commitments for purchasing as well as producing renewable energy. We recently brought up a 200 megawatt wind power solution at our Freeport plant. So we also need to begin integrating this to help improve the scale of what the world needs to make the transition. Thank you.
Thank you both. So it's great to hear the hydrocarbon sector doing its bit for this progressively lower carbon future. In fact, most of you in here, I'm sure, are aware of this lower even longer with the oil price. I'd rather like to hear better even sooner as being the motto, a bit more positive. Okay, so just thinking on about the demand for energy, of course, we all want continuous improvement. We want things to grow. You look at the increase on demand of energy in a country like the UAE, 6% per annum at the moment, and we're in a sort of slow phase. I mean, this country's gone from zero to fantastic in a matter of 44 years. But whilst we're looking at all of that continued demand for energy, we still have these sustainability goals to achieve. And if I could ask Bjorn and Neil perhaps to talk a little bit about how we're going to achieve these sustainability goals whilst at the same time meeting this demand for more energy as the world grows. Bjorn, would you like to kick us off, please?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here in Abu Dhabi. It's really inspiring. I think we have a tremendous challenge ahead of us, and if you can look at the world energy mix, as we talked about this morning, and we need to grow renewables, and we need to reduce coal, and then we need to systematically work to reduce the emissions from the hydrocarbon sector. And I think what we're talking about is a very big transformation of actually the infrastructures of our societies. We need to be impatient to make that happen, but still have patience to act in a, responsible financially way. And because it's not a trivial task to provide energy to 7 or possibly 9 billion people in an affordable way and also in an acceptable way for the environment. So in our company, in Statoil, we come to see this, that we need to act. Climate science is there. We don't discuss or debate that. We have decided let's act upon it. And we need to have responsible consumers. It's about the efficiency agenda, but also for all of us as individuals, consume much less. And then we need to have responsible governments. And I think His Excellency pointed to some very important steps that's being done here in Abu Dhabi, for instance, when it comes to looking at fuel subsidies, flaring, creating incentives for the right investments. And then, of course, you need to have responsible companies willing to take leadership to say, let's do something different. Because the world, it seems, are pretty long on ambitions. There's a lot of words out there, but much shorter when it comes to actions. So I think we need companies like SkyPower actually investing into renewables, and also companies like Statoil really working hard to minimize the footprint from the oil and gas sector and to produce it as efficiently as possible, but also doing interesting steps looking into what could be scalable through important renewable sources of energy. And I'd just like to add, I think leadership is important. And there is one thing perhaps a bit under-communicated when it comes to technology. So together with GE, Statoil have joined the forces of thousands of engineers actually to say, let's try to look at innovative new solutions to really make an impact. So we're working together with GE in many interesting ways to minimize the CO2 impact within the existing industries. And I think we need to see much more of cooperation between both government and business to address this, as well as among leading companies.
Neil, would you like to
Yeah, I think the message of collaboration is extremely important. No one company or several companies can solve this. It really has to involve government, companies, civil society, NGOs, academic, all together working. I would also say, I know this is the low carbon session, and we did have the Paris Accords that just occurred, which I believe signals that this transition is occurring in a way that will shake out over the next few decades. But something else happened last year as well, and that was the announcement of the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. Carbon is part of that, but there are many other aspects. And I think the hydrocarbon and energy industries really should also take a deep and hard look at the Sustainable Development Goals and determine how we can help the world achieve those goals, because there's prosperity and improvements we can make in many of those goal areas that are not directly related to energy itself. We have to pay attention to our own footprint and what we're doing in energy, but I think we have to pay similar attention to the positive impacts that we can make through our activities, through our products, through the solutions we provide. Last, let me just also mention, I think here in the UAE, Masdar, Abu Dhabi, and also upcoming in the Dubai Expo, there are some tremendous opportunities to demonstrate global cooperation, both in low carbon technology, but also in sustainable development goal areas. And I would just encourage all of us to think about how we can collaborate to make that happen.
Thank you both. And for those of you who live in Abu Dhabi, I'm sure you've been reading the National and the Cycle to Work program. We've had ministers, diplomats, and people from all walks of life bicycling to work. And it's that bit, we can all do our bit, but we're here and we're talking about governmental and the private sector working together. And His Excellency mentioned the Masdar, ADNOC, Emirates Steel, CCS and CO2 enhanced oil recovery, which is a great example of collaboration, which is the key word, I think, here. So, looking in the future, post-COP21, and we're all hoping for that 55% achievement, how will the conventional energy and the renewables together fare in a post-COP21? And perhaps I could ask Kerry and Deb to expand on that, please.
Sure. First of all, Your Excellency and fellow guests, I was mesmerized by the COP21 proceedings. In May of last year, I attended in Paris, and I sat on the stage with the chairman of Glencore, which resulted in a spirited debate as to the future of coal and the necessity of coal. What we saw at COP21, Sky Power as an official partner of the event, as well as strategic champion of Ban Ki-moon's climate change initiatives, Caring for Climate. What we saw was a turning of the tide. It was akin to taking the CD, going from a CD or going from a cassette tape to a CD, analog to digital. You know, since that very day in May, I've watched coal company stocks plummet around the world, down 2/3 from where they stood. We've seen utilities in the United States value erode by up to 50%. And what we are seeing is not a quiet revolution or a quiet transition. You're seeing a social media-driven millions and millions of activists that are forcing a transition to a low-carbon economy. I sat with leaders of the Indian government 1 year back, and I asked them, what is it that Sky Power, with all of our purchasing power and our presence on 4 continents around the world, what can we deliver to you? And it was a simple answer. Can you deliver us solar energy at the price of domestic coal? And I laughed. I thought at first, that's kind of a large goal. 3 months later, I sat in that same office, and not only did we deliver it, but we exceeded it. Today in India, solar energy is being purchased lower than the cost of domestic coal. So conservation is an incredible opportunity to reduce consumption and reduce emissions. The challenge is 1.3 billion people on this planet have no energy to start with, so there's nothing to conserve. So our view is that solar not only is the greatest form of distributed energy, but the leaders of the large hydrocarbon companies, or companies that burn, or companies that use nuclear or other forms of energy to power our grid and keep our lights on, allow us to enjoy our lives today, would be well suited and wise to start making investments in renewable energy today, because the future holds by 2050, 50% of all energy on this planet will be the sun, the greatest and the largest power company in the world.
Thank you. Deb, could you add
Good
to that?
morning, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. You know, there is going to be a role for both conventional and renewables in the post-COP21 world. Today, 50% of all new energy capacity is renewables. We see that, you know, renewable energy, the cost curves are going to continue to come down, renewables are going to continue to grow, and conventionals will still play a very big role, and they're going to become more and more efficient. That's what we're working on, you know, every day at GE. And today, GE, you know, we work across the spectrum of energy technologies, and today GE's technologies power 1/3 of the world's energy. And so as we work hard on the next generation of innovation, you know, there are some great things that we are working on already. Wind is a pretty mature renewable technology, but we are still working to bring down cost as well as generate more clean output. We have a great field test that's happening right now in the Tehachapi Desert. It's called Eco-Rotor, where we are looking at new designs that really force the air from the hub to the end of the blade so we can get 3% more output out of the technology. We have created new semiconductors for our solar inverters that will take the cost down by 40% and increase efficiency. We have just recently launched the most efficient gas turbine at 61.4%. And with the acquisition of Alstom, we have some of the most efficient steam technology at 46%. And then if you think about what we can get from the digital layer, where we're very much focused, we had software and sensors on our gas equipment and our wind equipment today, that has an opportunity for more efficiency and more clean output. And so you think about the portfolio, the choices, we can help with the COP21 commitments and now their execution plans, because it is going to require a mix of technology and energy in order to achieve those goals.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to agree with my colleagues. The world will need all forms of energy, whether conventional or renewable. And that government, take for example the UAE government as a member of OPEC country, nevertheless they adopt an energy mix policy. All forms of energy is welcomed. The government would like to incentivize people to use different forms of energy. We have seen that tremendous work has been done, tremendous result has been done from the Zaid future price, for the future energy price. Such a price has incentivized and inspired a lot of people around the world to come with new and fantastic idea to combat poverty in energy. Such an initiative, I'm sure it will have a positive impact on spread all different forms of energy and combat poverty energy, which some part, unfortunately, in some part of the world still is compliant from. Thank you, Nick.
And it's great to hear people being rewarded for innovation. And it's also good to hear affordability and efficiency. So we're hearing all the right words here. What I'd like to do now is to ask some of the companies, what are the respective investments that you're making? I mean, these things don't come for free in clean energy technology sector. So Deb, if I could start with you, and Kerry, Ahmed, if you could all add in, please.
So GE, we launched ecomagination strategy, which is our business strategy for cleaner innovation solutions, really to help our customers maximize resource efficiency, economics, and environmental performance. We launched ecomagination 10 years ago. And today, the technologies that make up the ecomagination portfolio have generated $200 billion of revenue. We've invested $15 billion in cleaner technology R&D through this time period, and we've committed to another $10 billion now in cleaner R&D through 2020. So we definitely are investing for the future, for a clean energy future at GE. Ecomagination technologies today span GE's portfolio, so from gas turbines to wind turbines to locomotive, aircraft engines, LED lighting, and we also have an energy ventures arm as well that is making investments in clean technology companies as well. Last year, it was our 10th anniversary. And in the spirit of collaboration, we're very proud of the results that we've had in this first decade, but really believe that to make the global impact at scale, it requires collaboration. So we made an announcement. We have 8 ambitious collaborations that we announced with a variety of companies, including Intel, obviously Statoil, Total, Walmart, and many, many others, Masdar included, where we are each working on solving tough resource and environmental challenges through those partnerships and bringing new types of solutions, commercial solutions to the market where we can scale together. And GE also, we launched last year a new business inside the company called Current, where we are taking ecomagination technologies and creating a cleaner solution, an integrated energy solution for our customers where we can help them reduce energy costs as well. A completely new model, hardware, software, and financing all together in a new way just to help our customers on the clean energy journey.
So at BP, we initiated an alternative energy business about 10 years ago, and since then we've invested $8 billion in alternative renewable technologies. And back to Kerry's point about affordability and commerciality, our renewable businesses all make money today. We have a wind business, and to give you a sense of the size of the business, it could power a city the size of Munich in Europe, or if you are from the US, it could power today a city the size of Dallas. That's BP's wind portfolio. And it's in the US, and it makes money today. It's 2,600 megawatts. We have a biofuels business, and our biofuels business is based on sugarcane, ethanol. It's based in Brazil, and it is 70% more efficient in terms of emissions relative to conventional transport fuels. Not all biofuels are created equal, I will point out. Sugarcane ethanol in Brazil, and which is why we have chosen to invest where we have, is very efficient when it comes to emissions. We are also investing in research. Here in Abu Dhabi, we have a partnership with the Masdar Institute. We have established a technology accelerator called Catalyst, and that is aimed at promoting the acceleration of renewable technologies to commerciality. And we are going to seed fund projects here in the region.
Thanks. Kerry, could you add? Well, you've already told us what wonderful things you're doing with pricing on solar.
So what is the biggest challenge to renewables? I mean, let's face it, this big elephant in the room, renewables, everyone wants them, everyone understands. The biggest challenge is capital. That's it. You know, if I was the CEO of one of the large oil companies in the world, and I took stock of the trend, the requirements, I mean, this isn't just a trend because it's the greatest, newest thing. In fact, solar is not really that great or that new. It's been around for 1 billion years. In the Dark Ages, they used to dry their clothing outside with the sun. But if I was the CEO of one of these wonderful companies, of which I know most of them, the CEOs that is, I would do what my fiduciary responsibility is to do. Many of them say they're the greatest company in the world, and many of them are the greatest employers. They have all the tools and capabilities, these companies, to change the world. How? Take 10% of their capital base and deploy it into renewables. In fact, I invite any of these companies to come alongside us and co-invest 10% of your capital base into renewables. Because not only will it protect their balance sheets as solar takes hold and starts being utilized around the world, but what it will do, it will ensure the future for their shareholders, because when their stock prices start falling, when fossil fuels start staying and oil reserves start staying in the ground, with the adoption of solar at a rapid pace, it's going to happen. Nothing's going to stop it. Not $5 price of oil. Because 8 days ago, I was in Bangladesh, and as I was landing in a helicopter in a soccer field, there were hundreds of kids jumping around excited to see a helicopter land in the field. We were going to look at a factory. It was amazing to see these children who had shorts. Many didn't even have T-shirts. They didn't have food, but they had a cellular phone. A cellular phone. How did they charge that phone? They go to the corner store and there's a solar panel. Each one of those kids, I've got 5, I can tell you something, they know the power of the sun. So if we want to accelerate what is going to happen, we need to have the capital to do that as a world. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry that has emerged overnight. Studies have shown that every 2 years since 1970, the efficiency of solar combined with the price increases by 22%. 22%. 3 cents, that's the number you think of. Today, the levelized cost of energy for solar is 3 US cents in this part of the world. That's before your cost of debt or financing. 3 cents. By 2021, you add another 3 cents, which is 6. And that is solar power with a battery, consider it base load power on demand. So, as I started by saying, if I was a leader of one of these great fossil fuel burning companies, with all the resources, talent, and everything they've done for humanity, now's the time to really help make a difference.
Bjorn, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think I'd like to respond to that, because I think companies are investing into renewables. Let's take Statoil, for instance. Actually, last year we spent nearly $100 million just on research and technology development into renewables. And you know, we're coming from Scandinavia, and the sun isn't always shining. So in the southern and the northern hemisphere of the world, maybe some other renewables may play an even more important role. So what we believe strongly into is wind power. So we are already investing or developing offshore wind that would be able to produce energy for around 600,000 people. Quite significant numbers, but that's only the beginning for us. So what a couple of months ago, we announced that we would like now the next step for us is to do floating wind parks. Big technology leap. I mean, access to land onshore is a scarce resource, many places. And we believe that the next step in technology development is in scale. We believe we have the capital and execution capability to develop that. Just to give you an illustration, what we're talking about, these wind turbines, they will be, the rotor blades will be around more than 80 meters each rotor blade. So combined 150 meters. Each rotation of that turbine will probably be sufficient to fuel a car, electric vehicle to run for quite a distance. And then they will be floating so the total structure is actually, it's not like Burj Khalifa, but it's higher than the Eiffel Tower at least. So I think there is a tremendous technology development into the renewable business, both in the solar as well as within the offshore wind. And I think we see a lot of exciting opportunities. So I think we're interested to picking up on some of your invitations there to allocate more and more capital towards that part of the business. Driven out, not out of political correctness, but driven out of the massive business opportunities this offers.
So we've got some really good investment advice here. If you've got some few dollars or dirhams that you're thinking about and putting into, you know where you should put it. We're also hearing some great complementariness and people working together, BP with Mazda, GE with Mazda. If you haven't been up to the Mazda city, it's really worth a visit. That innovation center, the GE room in there it's a bit of fun and it's a bit of wow, and it's a good way to see what can be done. So I would certainly encourage you to go up to the Mazda city and have a look at that. Again, investment opportunities with the BP accelerator as well, so lots of opportunities to invest. Now I'd like to go back to the government, and I've had a couple of questions here actually as well, which kind of relate to the next question, one on carbon pricing, what the thoughts are on that, and one on carbon taxes, kind of similar. So I'd like to ask His Excellency and Bjorn, both related to the government, what's the role that the government and policymakers have in managing this transition to a low-carbon economy? Excellency, if you could start us off, please.
Thank you. I think government and policymakers have a crucial role to play in the transition of a low-carbon economy. Two key areas I would like to highlight. First of all, promotion of a new partnership between public and private sectors in energy is important. UAE has a pioneer in using a private and public-private partnership in the region. More than 80% of the UAE generation capacity is produced through IWPP. Renewable projects are especially successful with IWPP. We have seen Shams 1 and Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park, both projects are being used through IWPP. The second element is private financing opportunity in the energy sector is there, and it is valuable. We have listened from our colleagues here how that money has been put for the private sector. Great potential for private finance and we would like to engage a private lender and collaboration to create a portfolio of opportunity. The opportunities are real, large, and will be available in the short term. I would like to cite two examples. Last year, the UAE government has hosted a roundtable discussion on creation of a green fund and investment in renewable and clean energy. Yesterday, we have seen Abu Dhabi National Bank has announced $10 billion that will be available for the next 10 years for sustainability and clean energy sectors. So what is the next step? In my opinion, the next step will be that policymakers and the private and financial institutions, they need to work together and produce some sort of framework to regularize the investment in the green fund and set up some sort of green fund, or regulate that part of the area where we could incentivize the private financial institution to step in and to explore the opportunity in financing the energy sector. UAE is already working toward this and to create a new market. These are very good examples of how government and private sector could work together and incentivize energy sector in low carbon economy and the green economy as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Bjorn, could you add to that? Maybe you could say something about carbon taxes as well.
Yeah, I can say that. So I think, as I said, consumers got an important role, companies for sure, but I think governments have a tremendously important role in this transformation. I guess all of us were very impressed by the direction set out in Paris. And I think the challenge now, even if 2015 was important and busy, I think 2016 and 2017 probably need to be even more busy. And the focus, of course, need to be on implementation, on actually being able to do what you promised to do. From my side, I think there are a couple of things that governments now should focus on. So really help stop flaring in the oil and gas industry. Really encourage a shift from coal to gas or other sources. Stop or limit or reduce subsidies, worldwide subsidies that leads to wastefulness of scarce resources. And then I think we need to get some mechanisms to work to possibly a carbon price. We have been living in a market where we have had the carbon tax for more than 10 years, or actually nearly 20 years, of $50 per ton. And that has, of course, helped us given us an incentive to invest in CO2 reduction technologies. And that made us the world's most efficient oil and gas producer when it comes to CO2 intensity. And I think more companies should be exposed, and more companies and consumers should be exposed to a tax on CO2. It might sound strange that companies are asking for more tax, but I think that's what we need to create a financial framework to really put a price on what you truly value, here the environment. And then I think there is one more thing that governments have a key role to play, and that is about to facilitate a dialogue, a cooperation. And because we need to have trust. Companies need to have trust in governments, and governments need to trust companies. And I think in some countries, there is just a breakdown of the dialogue between companies and governments. And I think to ensure a trustfulness and install cooperation is a tremendous responsibility for governments.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our period now. I've heard lots of wonderful words, complementariness, efficiency, and this idea of trust. I think it's something we all have to do. We've only got the one planet, as many people have said. We've really all got to work together. If I could ask us all to work together in thanking this wonderful panel for their great views and opinions. Thank you very much.